Welcome to Armchair Expert. I'm Dan Shepard. This is a very, very exciting episode for me. If you've heard the show, you know I'm an anthropology major. I talk about it ad nauseum. And of course, the queen of anthropology, well, Margaret Mead's up there, but Jane Goodall. My goodness, Jane Goodall. What a human being Jane Goodall is. She is a primatologist and anthropologist and an advocate for the environment, animals, and the natural world. For the last 30 years, Jane has been focused on biodiversity protection, fighting the climate crisis, addressing intensive farming, empowering young people through the youth program Roots and Shoots, and so much more. She also has a new podcast, the Jane Goodall Hopecast. So please check out Jane's new podcast, the Jane Goodall Hopecast. Enjoy the Queen of Primatology.
He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert.
How are you doing?
Well, I've never been as exhausted and busy in my whole life as during this lockdown. Since March, it's been every single day being virtual Jane.
And yeah, generally you would be traveling around and talking, and within that schedule is built in some little breaks for yourself, I'd imagine.
Yes, this is no break at all. Since March, it's been virtually every single day.
Are you being held captive against your will? Because you can signal us with, like, raise your eyebrows if someone's forcing you to do all this.
Oh, I'm being forced, all right, but then I agree to it, so.
Well, it is a huge delight for us to talk to you. We've been attempting to schedule this for a while. I think you were going to speak at UCLA, my alma mater, and we were going to speak in person, which I was excited about. But I'll take you any way I can get you.
Okay.
I was hoping today we could go through all the stuff you're up to, that you're working on, your podcast, Jane Goodall Institute, Roots and Shoots. But if it's okay with you, I would really hope to frame this in a broader theme of being female. I think today that's a very relevant thing for us to be looking at, how a female perspective can be so helpful, why there should be more leadership roles for women, and the value of that. And I can't imagine someone more significant in that way than you. I think you're in the Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Mount Rushmore of women who have really put their stamp on the world. You reject that? You don't like being compared to her?
Well, she was such an icon.
Yeah, I hate to break it to you, but so are you.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so when you started your work, I think 1957 maybe is the first time you go to Gombe to study the chimps.
Not Gombe, no. 1957, I went to Kenya and met Louis Leakey. And, then I had to go back to the UK for a year while he found the money because, I hadn't been to college. And
right.
Who was going to give money to this young, untrained girl to do something as absurd as going to study chimpanzees in a forest?
Yeah, not a lot of people you could have pointed to say, hey, look how good this works. But yes, you went back. You went to Cambridge. I think you were the 8th person ever to get a PhD without having an undergraduate degree, which I think is fascinating. Yeah. I'm curious how many there are now. But when you started, very, very male-dominated field. Is that safe to say?
Well, yes and no. I mean, there was almost nobody going out studying animals in the wild. There were 3 people, and they were all males. George Scheller was studying mountain gorilla. And there were 2 American men in South Africa studying chacma baboons. But that was it. There was nobody else out there.
Okay, well, the thing that you were unique in and novel in and that you got a ton of criticism for, can I just say one thing? I'm going to tell you, I was an anthropology major, so I worshipped you and I wanted to do primatology. So just know that there's a lot of baggage for my love for you in this. But my understanding is that you were really the first person to be doing an ethology where you were not naming the subject's numbers. So generally when people studied animals prior to you, they would just say 1A, 1B, whatever their nomenclature was. And you were really the first to name them and recognize their personalities.
Well, remember, I hadn't been to college when I first went out. Louis Leakey, my mentor, He's the one who picked me for this study. And he wanted a woman. That was the one key thing. He wanted a woman. He felt they might be more patient in the field. So that was one good thing for me. And secondly, he wanted somebody who hadn't been to college, because he wanted a mind uncluttered by the reductionist thinking of the animal behavior people of the time. So there was nobody out in the field, and the numbers were given by most of these people to the animals in labs and animals in captive situations. So the reason I named them, well, why wouldn't I? I mean, it's just natural to give an animal a name, not a number.
Yeah. Well, really quick about Lewis, do you think maybe his confidence in you and the other two women that he shepherded through, Diane Fossey, who then went and studied gorillas, and then I can't pronounce her name, who did orangutans?
Baruti Galdikas.
Yes. Do you think maybe he was in a position to feel that way because his own wife was so prolific as an archaeologist and they had made discoveries together? Do you think that made him more open-minded to that?
It's quite possible. I don't know. I hadn't thought of that before, but yeah, it's possible.
I think that in general, the criticism for you naming them was you were kind of displaying empathy, and empathy was the opposite of objectivity, which science is going for. That was the singular kind of criticism. And I have to say that sounds very, very similar to the outmoded male position that women in general are too emotional and not objective. They're emotional, not logical. And that, to me, the critique of you is more than what's on the surface at that time.
Well, it's absolutely true that when I got to Cambridge, big criticism was you cannot have empathy with your subject. You've got to be objective, and there's no space for having empathy. And I disagreed so much, because when you have empathy with your subject and they do something extraordinary, if you have empathy, you say to yourself, well, I think I know why they did that. And then you can put on your scientific logic and say, okay, well, now let's prove it. Am I right or am I wrong? And ask questions.
I listened to your interview with Dave Matthews, which, by the way, is a thrilling friendship that you guys have, on your podcast, the Jane Goodall Hopecast. And you gave the example of seeing a young chimp break her arm and then go to her mother.
I think what you're describing was when this little baby broke her arm, and she was the first baby and the mother was inexperienced. So every time the baby cried, which obviously it was very painful, the mother just hugged her tighter, which made her cry louder. So, but there's many examples of chimpanzees showing true altruism to each other, like an adult male rescuing an orphaned infant who isn't even related to him and saving his life.
Yeah. But the point I love that you made is, yes, I had these emotions. I was heartbroken for this inexperienced mother, but my notes are as thorough as notes could be. It is as objective as one can be. One doesn't preclude the other. And I think that was such a novel idea.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was. Tears were pouring down my face because even this little baby was named Little Jane. She was the only one who's ever been named for me. And, she was 3 months old. And at that time, we hadn't watched many infants growing up. So she was about the 5th, I think. And it was just tragic because it was the mother in such confusion, the baby so badly hurt. There was nothing we could do.
So I'm going to go even further with this. I would argue that your novel approach of having empathy opened your eyes in a way that someone studying them, even for the same duration that you studied them, they would have missed things. I think they would not have been open because they were this other, this animal, this lower thing, that they would have missed the parallels. I would even argue your enormous contribution, the legendary contribution, is that you discovered that chimpanzees use tools. That was thought to be something only humans could do, and a great definer of what made us human. And you demonstrated that, and you kind of destroyed that fantasy.
Yes, and also we were supposed to be the only creatures to have personality, the only creatures to have minds capable of problem solving, and especially the only creatures with emotions. And, I was taught as a child by my dog. Of course, animals have personalities, minds, and emotions. It's ridiculous. When the scientists told me that when I got to Cambridge, I really wondered, did they really believe what they were saying? Or was it just they couldn't prove it, therefore it's better not to talk about it?
Well, I have a whole theory on why they haven't. 'Cause I think it serves an actual purpose to alleviate our ethical issues with how they're treated. But before we get there, you could also say they have culture as well, which is something we would have thought was only us, right?
Yep, absolutely.
A dense culture, if you look at one population versus another, they have their own unique set of things they've learned and are passing on, and traditions and all these things that certainly meet the definition of culture.
Yeah, behavior passed from one generation to the next through observation, imitation, and practice. That is a definition of human culture. But when I first mentioned culture, I didn't have any other examples really, but it just seemed intuitively that, of course, as you see the babies watching, then in other places where I'd heard there was banging open nuts with rocks, which Gombe chimps don't do, the young ones there are learning that. So, of course, they're cultures. But I was given so much flack over that. You cannot talk about culture.
Yeah. So I think the fact that you were naive enough, having not been in college, and then again, I really think it has a lot to do with you being a woman in that situation, that you were empathetic, and that through that, we get some of the greatest discoveries about that species. And I really do think other people would have missed it.
I think you're right that many people would. I really do. And, I've been reading In the Shadow of Man, the first book I wrote about the Gombe chimps. It's going to be one chapter a month. And it just took me right back. And I was reading and thinking, every little detail is there. It was magic to read what I was learning about their different personalities. I mean, it was just magical to see how I did it back then.
Now, is Jane the person? There had to be terrible days in the field. There had to be incredible loneliness at times. You were in your 20s. There was not. You just shook your head.
Being alone is very different from being lonely. And I've always loved being alone. I mean, even when I was a child, I would climb the tree out there because I'm in my family home and spend ages alone up in the branches. And I go out with my dog onto the cliff tops on my own. They were quite wild in those days. So I've always loved being alone. The only time I was a little bit lonely, my mother came with me to start.
Well, again, really quick, I think that's hysterical as well. That's another male-female thing. You were 24 and they insist your mother joined you. That wouldn't have happened to a male scientist.
No, they did. That's not true. They did not insist my mother join me. They said I couldn't be out in the field on my own.
Oh, okay.
And she volunteered to come.
Okay.
And it was amazing. People say I was brave. I wasn't brave. It was what I wanted to do. She was. She was left alone with these big baboons invading the tent because they're very entrepreneurial and they quickly grab anything that might be a new food. Buffaloes wandering around, snakes, spiders. She was the brave one.
And she was a novelist, yeah?
Well, she wrote a couple of books.
Okay. That's two more than I've written, so I'm going to call her a novelist.
All right.
So obviously had her own set of determination, as all I'm pointing out. A determined person.
The whole family.
But
Now-
you said the time you were lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she first left, it was just before I saw Tool using, and I really missed having somebody to share the excitement with. I had this cook and a guy driving the boat, and they listened, they were interested, but it didn't mean as much to them as it would have to her.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't the chimps use tools? Of course.
Right. They weren't high-fiving each other when you discovered that they were getting termites out? Now, there was no period where, of course, because I'm trapped in my own point of view, and as much as I may have been interested in that, were you ever at any moment going, Wow, but I'm also missing out on this huge human experience. I could be in London having drinks with friends. Did that ever enter your mind? Were you ever concerned about what you were, quote, missing?
Nope, absolutely, absolutely not.
Okay.
Although I'd been very social before I left. I wasn't a little shy, retiring creature. I was out there having fun and going to dances and things like that. But I didn't miss it. I didn't miss it.
Because you were so focused and so fulfilled by this pursuit.
Yeah, I was there in the forest with all the magic of the forest around me and learning new things every day, and all these amazing chimpanzees with their different way of doing things. Complete magic.
Now, for those of the listeners who aren't super familiar with just what level of threat different primates are, you're arguably with the most dangerous, wouldn't you agree?
The most dangerous?
Yeah, chimpanzees as compared to, say, gorillas or other big great apes.
Well, I mean, gorillas can lose their temper. There's one young man who was studying chimpanzees in Congo, and he was attacked ferociously by a male gorilla who'd obviously just had a confrontation with another male, and he was mad. And how this guy survived, I simply don't know. And, orangutans can be violent, and they're all strong. So, yes, chimpanzees with each other, they can kill each other. And it's lucky they didn't want to kill me.
Yes. Let me just say, from a personal point of view, I have trekked up to the gorillas. I felt pretty safe. And then we also went into a forest on the hunt for chimpanzees. And there were a lot more rules. And it was taken much more seriously. Like, this has the odds of going bad far more than the gorilla experience would.
Well, that's probably because of the people running the program.
Okay. I'll blame them. But as you point out, they're incredibly strong. Four times stronger than a, full-grown adult human.
8 times stronger than me, I'm sure. I mean, they are very, very strong. And they can be very, very violent. And were there scary moments? Yes, there were.
There were.
Oh, yeah.
But none that ever made you rethink or question what you were going to do?
No.
Of course not.
I'm obstinate. I don't give up. And I couldn't let Louis Leakey down, could I?
No. Yeah, that's someone's approval I would certainly be in search of.
Did you always have that obstinate disposition going through life, or did it sort of come when you had this passion?
I think I probably always had it.
Yeah, I think you're born with that or not.
Yeah, you were, for sure. And I have a pretty bad dose of it. Can I ask you, while you were watching chimpanzees over these many, many years, how were the male-female roles in chimpanzees similar to our own, and how are they different? And was that something that interested you?
Well, I was interested in everything. What I loved was watching mother-child behavior, development of infants, relations with brothers and sisters. But the males are dominant. They have a dominance hierarchy. They dominate all females. And they're very promiscuous, which, of course, some people are too. So, I mean, they are. They're not all monogamous. And so basically, when a female comes into estrus, when she's ready for mating, she may be mated by all the males, one after the other. The very sexually popular old female Flo was mated 72 times in one day.
Whoa, my goodness.
Oh, my goodness.
She was pretty exhausted at the end of it.
Oh, geez.
But she was followed by this string of males. And the adolescents who, don't really get a go, they will hide behind a bush and shake a little branch. And sometimes the female will look at the alpha male and then creep off behind the bush.
And there's even evidence, I remember reading a paper called Lying in Primates, and how they'll also give a call, like that there's perhaps a predator in the area, so that all the alphas run towards it, and then they get a shot at the female while the alphas are out.
I think that sort of thing happens sometimes too. But mostly that happens when, for example, chimps hunt sometimes. And hunting is a very exciting thing. So if the top male sometimes shows possessiveness and other males are not supposed to mate his female, that happens often. But if the alpha male gets distracted and he's looking up at the hunt, that's when the other males run in and get a go. And if the alpha male, the possessive male, catches them, who do you think he attacks?
Oh,
Of course,
yeah,
the woman, the girl,
the female.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
That's kind of consistent
standard
with
with
humans.
humans,
Yeah.
If he attacked the male, the female would run off and have more fun.
Oh, well, that I didn't think of the strategical aspect. He would be creating another window of opportunity. So I have a quick question for you. Does it correlate perfectly with sexual dimorphism? Like, is the level of male dominance proportional to how much bigger males are than females in species?
Well, certainly between chimps and bonobos, the male bonobo is more or less the same size as the female, and you don't get the same system of sexual relations.
And bonobos as well, they have a much broader sexual experience than pan troglodytes, right? They're doing more things.
Well, the female bonobo is having this pink swelling all the time. So they solve a lot of disputes through sexual behavior. And females reassure each other by rubbing their sexual swellings together. So I was so glad Louis Leakey didn't send me to study them, because the Geographic would never have supported it, because they couldn't in those days have had all these pink bottoms in their pictures. There's a wonderful photograph in I think it's the second Geographic article, which would have been in, let's see, 69, I think. And it's a photograph taken by my husband, Hugo. It's a wonderful photo of 5 males sitting in a row, and they're all a little roused, looking at the camera, hair slightly out, and all with these big erections. And when you look at the photograph, there's a mist, a little strange mist at loin levels.
Wow.
Oh, wow. He captured the perfect moment.
Well, in those days there was no photoshopping, and I saw a note to the engraver, blend into fur.
Blend into fur.
That's how the Geographic was then. Even one photograph, it's lovely, the setting sun, and it's up against, a beautiful evening light, and I'm holding the walkie-talkie to send a message to my mother, who's down, to tell her I'm staying up for the night. And I get back this picture with the note to the engraver, and around each nail is a circle, and it says, remove dirt from nails.
Oh, you're kidding.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm not.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man. Well, it's changed.
Yeah.
Oh, what a change. Yeah.
Now, of course, because I'm male, I had a particular interest in Frodo.
Yeah.
I mean, he almost looked like a silverback. He was so disproportionately muscular. I was fascinated by him. Did you name him after Frodo Baggins?
He was, but that's before I realized his personality. It was entirely not like Frodo
I was going to
Baggins.
say, he did not live up to the name Frodo
No.
Baggins.
What Frodo was, as Flint was before him in this dominant F family, he was a spoilt brat. He had an older brother who supported him, an older sister who supported him, a top-ranking mother. And so he could get away with murder. I mean, he could attack and tease a much older individual, knowing that his family would run to his support. And he became a real bully.
Yeah, and he was enormous, though. He was considerably bigger than most of the other males, wasn't he?
Not really. He just
No?
looked bigger because he had so often his hair bristling.
Okay.
But he was more solid. He was
Yeah.
very solid built. Yeah.
So knowing that you are empathetic and that you are not trying to deny whatever emotional feelings, could you come to hate any of them? Like, would you be frustrated with Frodo because he did act like such a spoiled brat so often? And of course, his victims are other chimps you love.
Yes, of course. I was mad at him.
Yeah.
I was mad when they did things which were really unpleasant and horrible. I mean, I think of them like humans.
Right.
And there are people who do things that irritate you or make you angry. Same with the chimps.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it would be hard for me if I was in that position to try not to correct behavior versus just observing.
No. If you were in that position, you wouldn't feel that at all. For one thing, if you tried to intervene in something like that, that would be the end of you.
Oh, yeah. Well, I might get myself.
Oh, he was a monster. I mean, he was so strong and violent at times. So the very ironic part of your life, it has to occur to you, is that you went deep into a jungle and you are entirely anonymous. And then at some point you emerge and you're a world figure. I think that must be one of the most bizarre trajectories to being recognized the world over. Most people come to Hollywood where we're at to get that kind of recognition, but you went deep into the jungle. And that transition for you, is it confusing? Is it natural? What is that experience?
Well, when it first happened, I was, basically a shy person.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all these journalists wanting to interview me, and I tried to get out of it. And then I remember the first time somebody coming up to me when I was walking through Santa Fe, actually, and this woman came up and she started, tears in her eyes, saying, she actually said, "Can I touch you?
Uh-huh.
Can I touch you?" And I thought, this is spooky. This is awful. And I said, "Well, I'll shake your hand." And so at the beginning, people would come up in airports and they'd want selfies and could I sign something? And at first I hated it. I put on dark glasses. I let my hair down, but it still went on. And then I thought, well, by this time I'm trying to raise awareness. I'm trying to raise money for the Institute, trying to develop our youth program. And so I thought, well, this is obviously something that's happened. I can't do anything about it. I didn't ask for it, so I will use it. So taking brochures around, handing them out, saying, "Do you have children? Then they must join Roots and Shoots. Give them a brochure."
Well, yes, it sounds like you accepted the reality of what it was, which is there's no going back. So how do we make the best of this situation?
Yeah.
Just so you know, if I met you, I would attempt to groom you.
Well, I would have played along.
Okay. I would demonstrate your status.
I would have groomed you back.
Oh, wonderful. This would have been wonderful.
I probably have groomed your beard.
Let's start there, yeah.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
To your point, our best friends, they have a 9-year-old girl. I mean, we've interviewed Bill Gates and Hillary Clinton, you name it. None of this stuff has reached their radar. They could care less. But the 9-year-old found out we were interviewing you, and she was beside herself. She had to dress up as someone you admired. She's gone as you several times. And I think, what an amazing thing that you were born in 1937, maybe? And here's a
34.
gal, even better, 34. And here's a little girl born in 2010, mimicking you. I just think it's so spectacular. And for a wonderful reason, not because you have a humongous butt and show it on Instagram. Like, what? I'm delighted that there are young women who would dress up like you and that my daughters are excited. It's so wonderful. So with your notoriety and your deep love for the environment, for conservation, for animals, you've been a part of a couple of different really, really successful organizations. The first of which is the Jane Goodall Institute, which was established in 1977. And I believe now there's 10,000 groups in 100 countries.
That's going on to the youth program. The Jane Goodall Institute, we have 24 separate institutes in 24 different countries.
Oh, my goodness.
And the program for young people is a program of the Jane Goodall Institute.
Got you. So Roots and Shoots is under the umbrella of Jane Goodall Institute.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Roots and Shoots has 4,500 groups in 70 countries. Do you agree to that?
About 70.
Yeah.
68, 69, 70, 72, something like that. There's groups we don't even know about because, we discovered one the other day far away in the rainforests of Guatemala or Ecuador or something.
Oh,
and
my God.
we get young people going from one school to another, and they love this program. So they started in the new school. So it just grassroots.
Yeah. Walk me through what Roots and Shoots does. What's the objective? And it's youth centric. So what is the goal? How does it work?
So it works that a group gets started, let's say it's mostly in a school, and very often there's a teacher who tries to get it going, or it may be a high school student or something like that, or it may be in a university, or somebody may start it in a kindergarten. So you get the group of young people who care, and you tell them now, choose 3 projects to make the world better. 1 to help people, 1 to help animals, 1 to help the environment, because the choices they make will depend on how old they are, if they're rich or poor, if they're living in the town or the country, if they're living in China or the United States or Abu Dhabi or something like that.
Lily should start one.
Yeah, by the way, she'd be so great at
Yeah, she really
doing-
would. She's a boss.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes, you can help her. And, so that's how groups start. And when I was traveling around America through the airports, handing out my little brochures, you could follow my progress by seeing where new groups started up.
Wow.
You're like just dropping seeds as you walk.
Yes, that's right.
So, okay, now let's go back to, I think, the general reservation in the past of acknowledging that animals have an emotional capacity or an intellectual capacity. I think the hesitation there is if that is recognized, then you must immediately go to what the ethical dilemma of eating them is, or studying them, or any of these things.
Well, studying them with intervention, studying them in research laboratories, certainly eating them, it's more than the eating of them, it's the way they're kept in the factory farms. It's horrendous. And then on top of that, there's the harm it does to the environment. You've got to feed them. You cut down habitats to grow the grain. You use fossil fuel to get the grain to the animals to abattoir, meat to the table. They produce methane gas, which is like CO2, the greenhouse gases.
I think 32 times better at heating up the atmosphere than CO2. I mean, it is really the lethal
It's really very
gas
bad.
up there.
Yep.
Okay, so I don't want anyone to call me a hypocrite because I do eat meat. Obviously, I don't feel morally great about it. And I think I've tended to focus on exactly what you just mentioned, which is the manner in which we're getting the meat. Feels like it could be vastly improved.
But you know something? If you love the taste of meat, these alternatives to meat, I can't tell the difference. It's identical.
You're right. You're right. We eat these Light Life burgers and they're insanely delicious. You're right. There is no reason to not embrace those. I agree.
No.
I guess, and tell me why I'm an idiot. I'm going to give you an opportunity to point out my flaw. So
Okay.
I have no problem acknowledging the value and complexity of animals. I'm not in denial of it. To me, it's quite obvious. I guess I go to a place where, well, I'm an omnivore and omnivores eat meat and I'm like any other animal that's an omnivore. I don't feel guilty about playing my role in the food chain. Now, I'm obviously playing an absurd role that I wasn't really designed. So I also acknowledge that. But I think that's what I fall back on morally. Do you want to blow some holes in that?
I will. First of all, you are able to comprehend the exact nature of the creature that you're eating. And you know that that is an animal that has emotions, that can feel fear and pain, plays a role in its society, or it would do if it was allowed to. And so that makes you separate from the other animals. There's also something else to do with health.
Okay.
And we have the gut of a herbivore. And the herbivore has a long gut because it's got to get the goodness out of leaves and grass and things. A carnivore has a short one because it's got to get rid of the meat before it rots in the intestines.
Oh, boy.
So we're harming our health this way. Plus, these poor animals are given hormones to make them grow faster and antibiotics to stop them dying because of stress. So those antibiotics, the bacteria building up resistance because they're used all the time.
Is there a hierarchy in your mind or no? Like, what about eating insects? Are you more in favor of that?
Well, that's something I haven't really come to grips with, because there's even people now talking about the fact that some plants may have purpose. We can't-
Oh, well, then we're
Feelings,
done.
yeah.
Then we just got to
then
kill
we're
ourselves.
finished. So,
It is a tricky.
well, I have to say that if I was asked to choose between eating a pig and a mealworm, I would choose the mealworm.
Okay.
And I don't think it's too terribly bad to eat insects somehow.
Okay. Eggs, how do we feel about eggs?
Oh, well, if eggs from hens clucking around in the farmyard, I don't mind so much, but the factory farms are horrendous.
Yeah, they're bad on the environment.
Oh, and the milk coming from these dairy cows and these, you watch some of the secretly filmed video and you feel ill.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what stopped me. When I learned about factory farms for the first time, it was in the late 60s. And next time I looked at meat on my plate, I thought, this symbolizes fear, pain, death,
Yeah.
not appealing.
Yeah, no, not very appetizing.
Yeah, it doesn't make me very hungry when you lay it out like that.
And you know what else? When I'm talking to people, I never say, oh, you bad person, you eat meat, you shouldn't, blah, 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 blah. I want you after this to Google and check out Picasso, not Picasso the artist, but Picasso. You watch that.
Okay. Well, here's what happened to me. I watched Forks Over Knives 8 years ago, and I went vegan for a year. I doubt Forks Over Knives is as alarming as what you just told me to search. So if I'm going to watch it, I might as well go grocery shopping first, because I'm sure I'm going to have to make a decision afterwards.
But you really, I felt so much better when I stopped. I felt light. Didn't you feel better when you were vegan for a year?
I didn't do it right. I didn't put enough time into. What I did is ended up eating a bazillion carbohydrates, and no, I didn't feel much better. I think I felt worse. I'll own a failure on my part.
And the choices now are so good, aren't they?
Well, they're way different than I did it in 2012.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. It's come on a long way.
You know, to be honest, what got me off of it is I was going back to Detroit nonstop because my father was ill, and you just couldn't eat vegetarian in 2012 in Detroit. Now, in LA, it's pretty darn good and easy. Yeah. Overall, are you optimistic or pessimistic? Where are you at on our state?
Well, I'm both.
Okay.
I know that if we all get together, we've got a window of time. We can start slowing down climate change. We can start healing some of the harm that we've done. Nature's very resilient. We're coming up with our intellect with, more and more ways for clean, green energy, renewable energy, and things like that. But the thing is, we don't have that much time. So how do we get people involved? That's why I work so hard on Roots and Shoots. And I'm so thrilled because many children are changing their parents.
Oh, yeah, mine do daily. It's so annoying, but I do get drug along by to a lot of things.
A little girl in China who I first met when she was 10. She couldn't speak English. She came to my lecture, which of course was translated. And she said to her parents, I'm going to learn English because I want to talk to Dr. Jane.
Oh,
and she started a Roots and Shoots group, and her mother helped her. And now she's fluent in English. She's doing all kinds of amazing things. But I got a letter from her mother. She said, Dr. Jane, I have to tell you, she doesn't speak English either, but her daughter translated it, that I was just a housewife and I went shopping and I never thought about it and I didn't think about anything. She said, now I've become a thoughtful person and I think about what I buy and how it was made and did it hurt the environment. And she said, this program of yours has not just changed the children, it's changed all their parents too.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Of the things you've done, what is most rewarding? That stuff inspiring a little girl in China? Or is it the fact that you probably played a huge role in the fact that chimps are still here?
I don't know. If I'm asked what's the one main thing,
Yeah.
I think one thing that I really feel the chimps helped me to do this, but to change the scientific attitude towards animals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty darn profound. That's a paradigm shift.
Yeah, it's a paradigm shift. And the other one is starting Roots and Shoots, because that now has its own life. If I die tomorrow, Roots and Shoots will carry on.
Well, that's such a good point. Yeah, for someone who wants to enact change, trying to figure out how to do it in your absence is, I imagine, the hardest thing to figure out, which you've done.
Yeah.
Okay, now your podcast. I want to know, do you like interviewing people? You've been interviewed your whole life, and I was in a similar situation, which I'm an actor, and I've been doing interviews for 15 years, and I'm like, oh, I know how to be in an interview. And guess what? I did not. I knew how to get interviewed, and I had to learn how to interview. Have you enjoyed hosting Jane Goodall Hopecast?
Well, when I was told I had to host it, I was shocked. I said, I can't do that.
Who are your captors? I must intervene.
Yes. So anyway, then I found I could do it. It's like the first time I had to give a lecture. I felt that for the first 5 minutes, I literally couldn't breathe. I was terrified. But then suddenly I realized that, I don't know, it's something from the audience that filled me with I don't know what it is, but it's a kind of magic which comes to me when I'm out there in front of a crowd. And that's why this virtual business, virtual lectures, looking at a little camera on the top of a screen, that is so hard. I've had to really put every ounce of energy into trying to give a proper lecture without an audience.
Yeah. You know, this is a topic I bring up all the time. There's a term for that. I can't remember it. I am always, having majored in anthro, I'm always trying to get people to recognize how social of an animal we are. Like, we have this very obvious understanding that dogs are social, so they behave this way in this predictable way, and they respond to this. And we seem to underestimate that we're the, like, apex social animal, and that all the things chimps need, we need probably times 3. This notion of us being an island, that is not how we were designed to live. And I think you look at all of our mental health issues, we underestimate just how social we are and how much we need each other. And you standing in front of an audience makes total sense to me, because you are feeling the full brunt of community. Like, this is what you were designed to do.
That's right. I do feel I have a sort of purpose in this life, and I just have to try and do it. You know, when I was little, I wanted to write books because I was so shy. And I started writing when I was 4. My mother used to write it down for me. I found stories I wrote when I was 5. I got one lovely one. So I always wanted to write. I wanted to write poetry. But then, 10 years old, Africa, wild animals, books, that's what I wanted to do. Because women weren't that sort of scientists then. So that was my goal.
And is it true you still have the chimpanzee stuffed animal your dad gave you as a child?
Yes, he's in lockdown in Washington, D.C., where he was part of the exhibit they put on, Becoming Jane or something like that, which I haven't seen yet. And then lockdown came, so he's still there.
Oh, no, he's in quarantine by himself.
I told them they couldn't have him. He was too precious.
Yeah.
They made him a glass bulletproof case, and he was hand carried.
He's on display like the Pope. Well, if there's ever an auction, and then the only thing I think I'd ever want to own of somebody, I think I'd be a good steward of that teddy bear, should that ever happen.
take
Not a
care
teddy
of
bear, he's a chimpanzee. You'd be a bad steward if you can't tell a chimp from a bear.
Well, they're both mammals. It's an easy mistake. My last question about your podcast. I find, if I'm just being honest and candid with you, I find that the experience of having fame is underwhelming and more of an inconvenience. But I will say the thing that I most enjoy is that I get to meet someone like you, and I have to imagine that you're not impervious to that too. Do you enjoy the fact that you can meet people that you are greatly interested in?
Of course, because there's people I want to meet because they can really make a difference.
There's none that they're not even going to make a difference. But like John Travolta, you love Saturday Night Fever, and by God, you could have a conversation with John Travolta. No?
Well, I'd hate to say, but I haven't had time to go to cinemas for so long that I don't know the film stars.
Well, I was trying to make that one easy for you. That was 1977. Saturday Night Fever.
I didn't see that film.
Do you have a favorite film?
Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay.
That's a good one.
You think about Lord of the Rings, it's exactly like what's going on now. If you think that Mordor is greed and riches and all these despots who are out there, and that we need to grow the fellowship to fight that, to fight the Black Riders who are out there, all these big businessmen who couldn't care less about anything else. And I only thought of that recently, but if you remember, Galadriel gives Frodo a little vial of dust, and when he sprinkles it, all the trees that are being cut down by Mordor come to life and grow up again. So the whole thing, it's like a parable of what's going on.
Right,
Yeah.
prophetic. Yeah. Huh.
It is prophetic.
I hadn't made that connection.
No, I made it.
Yes, you did. It's proprietary to you now. Jane, you're so wonderful. I appreciate your time so much. I really want you to tell your captors that you need a little break, though, okay?
They're not my captors, don't worry. I'm not a weak and feeble person.
You are not.
No, you're anything but.
I do have a job to do, and the job requires me to do what I'm doing now. So my mother taught me, if you're going to do something, do it as well as you possibly can.
Well, your mother should be incredibly happy because you've done exactly that. And I thank you on behalf of my children, future generations. I'm so grateful to you for dedicating so much of your life and time and energy to trying to make this place somewhere we can live for more than another 100 years.
Thank you, and it's been absolutely lovely talking to you. I was really looking forward to it.
Well, we will meet one day and I will groom you. It'll be the best grooming of your life. I guarantee it.
And I will groom your beard.
Okay. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And we appreciate you so much.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Jane.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
And now my favorite part of the show, the fact check with my soulmate, Monica Padman.
Hello. Is Monica there? Paging Mrs. Padman. Mrs. Padman.
Wow. You're huge on my computer.
Oh, too big?
No. You're life size. We are not together, obviously.
We are not together. We are separated by about 800 miles.
And what are you doing 800 miles away?
I just decided to get out of town. Just fucking hit the road. North to Alaska or south to LA, get out of town. I'm shooting season 2 of Top Gear America in Utah.
And how is it going?
Oh, man. It's so good. It's
I'm
so good.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, what the hell happened?
That was my peppermint tea.
Oh, my gosh.
Making a real life ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, so much fun. Jumping trucks, racing German station wagons today, horsing around, cutting up with the guys.
Oh, wow.
You know, that kind of stuff.
You love a cut up.
I do love to cut up. And you have been very productive this weekend.
Yeah, I've had almost no fun. I've been only productive.
You have fun doing that, though, right?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say fun. It's just really satisfying. So what I did was...
Satisfizers?
Yes, I decided to get my life together.
It was time. It was overdue.
It was way overdue. I was feeling, in all honesty, a bit out of control.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to gain some control back.
Yeah.
So the best way to do that is shopping, which I did. Then
right.
The second best way is to clean and organize. So I cleaned and organized everything. You know my scary closet that's like very scary because it's a big old mess?
Where we keep the equipment?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And every time we got to get the equipment out of there, it's like Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom. Like I'm waiting for darts to shoot out of the walls.
Oh, no.
Well, you brought it up.
I did clean it up a year ago, and it took all day. I mean, it was horrible. I had posted a picture of it in its worst state. And it was like Monica Geller's secret closet. Friends fans will know what that means.
Okay.
You're not going to know.
I don't know what that means. When you said you posted a picture, I thought you were in the process of saying you had post-traumatic stress disorder from the closet.
Well, that too. I cleaned it up a year ago. It was beautiful. Then within the year, it's gotten a little out of hand again.
Sure. Year's a long time.
I had to completely fix that. I had to clean my refrigerator. I made an herb basket.
Well, I don't know if everyone's up to speed on the fact that you're a professional gourmet chef now and that you cook 7 nights a week.
I cook a lot.
It's really impressive. What are you going to cook tonight?
I'm going to cook a fish.
Oh, yuck. In your apartment.
Don't say yuck. Don't yuck my yum.
That's a bad idea.
No, it's not.
Cooking fish inside of an apartment is one of the world's worst ideas.
I'm going to open the windows. Listen.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Listen, my chef guru, Allison Roman, wants me to cook more fish. And
indoors.
Yeah. And she said, one of the main things that people fear is it going to make my apartment smell? No, it's not.
Okay, you know why it's the main thing people fear? Because 100 times out of 100, your whole house stinks like a catfish.
It's not catfish. It's going to be cod. And cod is very light.
Clean.
It is.
Okay.
It's not a fishy fish.
Cod it feels like an interesting choice because isn't that basically what you get at McDonald's in a fillet of fish?
No.
Yeah.
Wait, no, probably tilapia.
Fish sticks. No, fish sticks and fillet of fish are cod.
Oh.
It's a very affordable fish.
It wasn't that affordable.
Then you got ripped off because it's a real cheap fish.
No, I got a nice one. Stop doing this to my fish plans. I'm going to make it. It's a tomato poached fish, and it is going to be delicious.
What does that mean, tomato poached?
You poach it in tomato.
Yeah, but I guess I don't. I'm thinking of poaching an egg.
Oh, no, like it cooks within the tomato sauce, juice, garlic, shallot.
Oh.
Some other stuff. I haven't looked up the recipe in a bit.
Well, some of that might mask the smell, but I'm going to tell you one of my new fears, which is, you know, when people stink, they've passed their expiration date, like they have BO, and they don't have time for a shower. So what they do is they pop some cologne all over themselves.
Yeah.
And then smear their antiperspirant on over the smell.
Okay. Go on.
And now you just have a ton of smells and the BO. It just doesn't go away.
Okay.
And then it's like an ambrosia or a cacophony of smells or a cornucopia of smells. And I'm a little worried about that for you.
I know what you're talking about. It's like when people try to spray over their bowel movements.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're right on it.
Extra bad. Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost, just leave the raw bowel movement.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have said raw.
Ew, yeah, that was horrible.
Yeah. Okay.
But I agree.
The pure movement smell. And don't try to perfume that pig, as they say.
I agree about the BM, but not about the fish.
Can we agree upon a non-biased judge that will stop by tomorrow morning? We can appoint somebody.
Sure.
And we won't tell them anything. We're not going to say a goddamn thing. We're just going to say, we're asking a favor. You stop by Monica's in the morning. Anything seems mentionable, you tell us. If not, thank you. And if they say, I went to Monica's. Man, it smelled like an alley cat's fish.
No.
Okay.
Well,
all right.
well, listen. It's going to smell good. She promised, and I trust her. I think you are extra sensitive to fish. You hated the idea of anchovies. You don't like salmon, which is crazy.
I acknowledge that.
And I cook salmon in here a fair amount, and I'm fine with it.
Didn't you tell me you had a problem with one of these fish fries, though, that it did reek like fish?
No, that was the chicken.
I know you stank.
Yeah.
Well, I know you stank it up with some Yardbird, but I thought you also had a fish mix-up.
I so far haven't had any fish problems.
How about this? Could we agree that if you have the option, just why not cook it outside, like on the grill?
No, I can't tomato poach outside.
Oh.
And that's the prep. That's a preparation of my choosing.
Okay.
I have to cook it today because I took it out of the fridge. I mean, out of the freezer a couple of days ago. I am a little worried about that part.
Oh, boy.
Wait, no, I think it's fine. I'll stop. You're making me scared.
It's been on the counter for 2 days?
No.
It's thawed. It thawed a while ago.
It's been in the fridge.
Oh, man.
Which is
Okay.
fine.
Does your fridge stink at all?
No, it smells great.
Well, all those herbs are in there.
Yeah, my herb basket makes it smell so good. I have a lettuce basket and an herb basket. The lettuce basket is a box, but still,
Yeah.
it has its own
It's
place.
impressive. It looks like a professional chef's fridge.
When you saw a picture of it, you said I had too many vegetables. No one says that.
Well, my concern was no one person could eat that many vegetables in the time horizon that vegetables stay good.
Yeah, I tend to
Try to get 3 or 4 extra days out of fish, a couple weeks out of the veggies.
I do overestimate.
How old's this
sometimes.
tomato you're going to be poaching the old fish with?
Don't call it old fish.
Day old fish.
Ew. Well, day old isn't bad.
Well, no, they slash prices on like day old donuts, day old bread.
Oh.
Day old is usually signaling that you're going to get a deal.
As I said, it wasn't cheap.
Well, again, I think you got ripped off because it's a very inexpensive fish. That's why it's in fish sticks and
Are you
fillet
sure?
fish.
Let me look up right now, actually. This is a good fact.
Okay, real time fact
Yeah. What kind of fish
is in a fillet of
in
fish.
a fillet of fish McDonald's?
You're not going to like this answer.
Not cod. Alaskan pollock.
I bet that's a cod. Let's see.
Hold on. What is Alaskan pollock?
Yeah.
Alaska pollock. Oh, fuck. It's a species of cod.
Yep. That was a long walk back to cod. And that even sounds fancier than
No,
the
it's
cod
not.
you bought.
No.
You just got cod.
No, it's not.
COD.
I got fancy
Credit on
cod.
deposit.
How dare you?
Cash on delivery. COD. Cod.
Oh, boy.
You could do the same for fish sticks, and you're going to find it's cod across the board.
That's fine. I love fish sticks.
Yeah, absolutely. They're what make America run. But it's just not a. You're so gourmet right now, and it's tuna fish.
Well, I love tuna fish. Also, the reason she picked cod as this recipe is because it's not very fishy, which is why it's in fish sticks and why it's in fillet of fish.
Yeah. Well, and how cheap it is.
No.
I'm going to find out. Hold on. Top 5 most inexpensive fish.
Okay.
If this makes the list, you're in trouble.
No, I'm not. It's supposed to be on the cheaper end.
Well, now you're changing your story. You said you paid really good money for this cod.
No, but compared to halibut. But it wasn't cheap. It wasn't like $5. It was like $25.
Oh, it didn't do inexpensive. It said expensive. Inexpensive. I should have just said cheap fish. Budget-friendly fish. Well, skate apparently is cheap. Catfish, we knew that. Which type of fish is the cheapest? This is a bad category to be looking at. White flesh fish is usually inexpensive. Has a mild flavor, cooks quickly. The most popular kinds of whitefish include cod, tilapia, haddock,
tilapia.
catfish, grouper, bass, and snapper.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
This is like the third time in 3 weeks you've yucked my yum.
Well, no, hold on. You weren't eating it, and I wasn't going, ooh, I hate fish. I'm telling you that it's an inexpensive fish, which is great.
You
It's
said
good.
yuck when I said what I was making. You
I did?
literally said yuck. So
But you hadn't said yum. So
I said, I'm excited. I'm making a fish tonight. And I'm still excited. I'm not going to let you yuck it.
I know, I'm not trying to. I just was worried about the smell in there, but now I'm over it.
It's going to be great. Speaking of animals,
Yeah.
this was Jane Goodall's episode.
Oh my God.
I'm glad we weren't talking about steak. That would have been really counter.
Or bushmeat.
What's that?
That's eating of primates.
Oh no. People do that?
Yeah. You know, well, where meat is really scarce, they will eat primates, and primates are supposed to taste terrible.
Yeah, because isn't the because so muscly.
It's that we're so tendony. I guess we taste really rubber bandy.
Ew, gross. Okay.
Is what my anthro teacher Joan Barker told me.
It's what Army.
I don't know if she had tried. Well, I hope she hadn't tried any primate.
I started to make a joke, but then I stopped.
What was your joke?
I started to say, "Is that what Army Hammer told you?"
Oh, that's a topical joke.
It's a topical joke, but I have very mixed feelings on that whole thing.
Oh, mine aren't mixed. Mine are very, very clear.
Yeah, I know. I can assume what yours are. Mine are pretty much what yours are, I think. Well, I don't know all the details, so I don't want to get us in
let's just
trouble.
take the thing we're talking about, which is the part we understand is that he had written sexual text messages expressing a desire to eat somebody.
Mm-hmm. And we were told it was consensual.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's our understanding.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with anybody's weird sexual fantasy. I have a big problem with someone eating somebody, but
yeah.
You can have as kinky of thoughts as you want.
Yeah.
If your partner wants to pretend that you're going to eat each other, what the fuck does that have to do with any of us?
I agree. I thought it was extreme what was happening. If it was consensual, if it wasn't, and he was harassing people and trying to tell them that he wanted to eat them, mate, that's a different story. But that doesn't seem like that was the case. But I don't know.
Well, we can get into a much that's an easy position for us to take. I think the harder one is I do believe part of the issue is that it was consensual. And that some of these gals now regret it and say there was a power imbalance, and now they're not happy that they participated in that. And that's a really tricky subject that I have probably a bad opinion on. I don't think we can function as a society if you can retract consent. I actually don't think it can function if you can tell someone to their face, yes, I consent, and then later say, no, I don't consent.
No, but it's if you feel like you have to say yes, it's way more complicated. But in this case, I don't think he had power. It wasn't like he was employing these people or he was...
No, but I think people will argue that because someone's famous, that they inherently have a power imbalance over anyone else, and that's tricky for me.
I don't think that would hold up. If that person literally had power, could control their job or their well-being in some, I don't know. If just saying that person's famous gives them power doesn't. I don't think that really holds any water. They don't actually have power over you. Whereas bosses and stuff like that do.
Yeah, I guess I'm just saying if we live in a society where consent can be retracted, then if someone gives you consent real time and very genuinely and honestly and earnestly, you then have to say, no, you don't. How do you proceed in life in a paradigm where if someone tells you they want to do something and you do it with them, you're supposed to assume their consent isn't real? That also feels weird and controlling and dismissive. And
well, no, I think you just have to be cognizant of the relationships you pursue. If you're pursuing one with your employee, maybe don't, because you never know what is happening there.
Oh yeah, employer, employee, of course. But I'm talking just two people meet, they have a relationship, and the guy says, I want to be kinky and do S&M.
Yeah.
And the person says, I do too. I'd like to try that.
Yeah.
And then they didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then later they say, I retract consent. I was forced to,
Yeah. I think these cases are a little more nuanced than that, but I don't know enough about the Armie Hammer one to really say. I don't think him being famous gives him power personally.
Right.
Unless they were actresses and he was calling them in for meetings and stuff like that.
Well, that'd be grody, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't. People have kinky thoughts, but I don't want him to really eat anyone.
No, nobody should eat anyone. Like, women have rape fantasies, and they work out rape fantasies with their partners. They don't want to be raped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's fine if they want to express that fear in that way.
Yeah.
But they don't want to be raped.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you could be working out this thing that, you want to be consumed. What's deeper than it, I think, if you want to get emotional about it, is like, I think the statement is, I'm so into you that I would consume you.
Yes.
And I would never want to consume a person, but I am so into you, I want to consume you.
That's the benign version of it, right? Because these texts were explicit. Like, they were...
They're dark.
They were dark. But...
Did it make you horny for them?
No.
Oh.
It did make me like, whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing I can see with what I could see happening that's uncomfortable is if I was flirting, texting with someone, and it was like really fun and playful, and we were like days in and we were really into it, and then it took a quick turn into something very dark.
Yeah.
That would be uncomfortable. Like, it would be really, it would be hard, although of course I'd have to say like, oh, I'm not into that.
Yeah.
But
if you wrote back, I want to eat your spleen, what on earth is the other person supposed to assume other than if that happened to you, that exact same thing, you would just not respond probably when it got weird. Or you might even say, oh, I don't want to eat anyone and I don't want to be eaten, whatever. You wouldn't then think, I should embarrass this person. Like, I should tell people that this happened.
I would not. Unless I was really feeling threatened in some way, or like, if something was getting out of control, I wouldn't want to embarrass someone, but I would potentially need to say something to other people if it was getting out of hand, if I felt in danger or threatened or harassed.
Can we role play? And I'm gonna do.
Oh boy, this is. I'm
gonna go somewhere where I would have to put up a red flag. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, what are you doing?
I'm organizing.
Oh, you're in your house. You're in your house.
Yep.
What are you wearing?
Yep.
What are you
smiley
wearing?
face.
Smiley face.
I'm wearing a sweatshirt and thick socks and no pants.
All right, this is what I'm going to write. That's so kinky to wear big, thick socks and no pants. I'd love to bring over 15 pounds of cod and stink up your kitchen. And take them socks off once it's nice and stinking in there. And then I would go, I do not consent to this.
Wait, you said it.
I was painting one where I would have to.
Oh, that was
confusing. If I were you.
So I was you when I was wearing the sweatshirt and I was organizing?
Yeah, which is what I do all the time.
I didn't know that. I wouldn't have been organizing or wearing a sweatshirt with no pants on.
Well, I wanted to send the text that I would have to send up a flare. Yeah.
And you wouldn't like it if someone said they were going to bring a lot of cod over.
Like 13, 14 pounds of cod and really stink up the place. And then work those socks off. And then tie the socks around the cod.
Really, what would you say? You wouldn't just say, oh,
I'd be really nice.
Yeah, you would be cognizant of the person's feelings.
I'm also radical. I would probably go along with anything, just see what this whole thing's about.
But I guess that's where things get a little tricky, because what if I was texting with someone and then they took it to a really dark place and it was really playful, and I guess you could think for a bit that it was still, like, you could think for a while it was still playful until you were like, oh shit, no it's not. But I've already been sort of playing along because I thought it was that. Now it's not. Now I have to say, no, I don't like it, but I did play along for a bit.
Yeah, but like, so what? So all that is like, it's flirting that didn't pan out. Like it's like when someone goes up and says, "What's your name?" at the bar, and then they say something corny and you don't like it, and it ends. Like so, it's just like this escalation, and then it doesn't click for you, and that's that.
That's true.
It's not like a moral issue. It's just like, oh, we're not compatible on the fantasy thing. You've got all this fish you're trying to unload, and you want to cook it at my house, and I'm not going to be able to truthfully say I want to live out this fantasy with you. Jane Goodall. Poor Jane Goodall.
This was connected.
She deserves so much more than this.
Why? It was a natural flow. It was a ding, ding, ding.
Okay. What we both really loved about Jane Goodall is she's kind of taken this, not by her choice, she has the role of like queen of the planet.
Yeah.
And yet she's so spunky.
Yeah.
That was my favorite.
I know. I loved when she told you weren't capable of taking care of her stuffed animal chimp because you called it a teddy bear.
Exactly.
It's like you can't take care of it if you don't even know the difference between a chimp and a bear.
Yeah, you can't have it.
That's why she'd be fine with us talking about the texting.
Yeah.
She'd
probably like it. Maybe she'll even get a hold of us so she can voice her opinion on it.
I think I know her opinion. Well, no, I definitely don't know her opinion on the sex part, but she's definitely not into eating humans or primates or animals at all.
Well, we also know her opinion on the sexting that was involving bringing fish over because she's a vegetarian. She would not want you to bring fish over and cook it.
I wonder if she cares as much about fish.
Well, she said the only thing she could possibly eat would maybe be insects. Yeah.
I know.
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah.
Why ding, ding, ding?
I don't know. I just wanted to say it because insects.
Oh, insects?
Oh, my God. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, my gosh.
Okay. So how many times more harmful is methane gas than CO2? We're learning so much about this
now.
Yeah, because of Bill's book.
Yes, how to avoid climate disaster.
Okay, I'll read this. This is from UNICEF. You tell me if your number in your head is different from Bill's book.
There's like three that go around, but go ahead.
Okay. Methane is a powerful greenhouse gas with a 100-year-old global warming potential 25 times that of CO2, measured over a 20-year period. Methane is 84 times more potent as a greenhouse gas than CO2. About 60% of global methane emissions are due to human activities. What does Bill say?
I think he says 28, and I had heard 32. That was another number that everyone agreed upon. But I think where it gets tricky is the only upside of methane is that it doesn't stay in the atmosphere nearly as long as carbon. So carbon dioxide has a really long half-life, whereas methane doesn't. So even though it's heating it more, it'll go way quicker.
Yeah.
But the thing that was really that we read in the book, nitrous oxide, which is also a byproduct, that is like 200 or 300 times as warming than CO2.
Oof.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to him. Can't wait.
This week, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so scared.
I'm so scared. Ding, ding, ding. There's a really funny Friends moment where Ross can't flirt and he's trying to flirt with the girl who's delivering his pizza. And actually, I wonder if this doesn't hold up in 2021.
Oh, nothing does, but continue.
He keeps calling.
Sure, stalking.
He keeps having her come back so he can keep practice flirting. He can try to get better each time. And he starts talking about gas and how different gases smell and how methane smells. It's really funny. Oh, I love that show. I'm going to start it from the beginning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How many episodes are there? 200? At least.
Why don't I know that? Well,
how many seasons was it on?
It was 10, but in season 5, they hit 100. But then there's fewer episodes in the later season. So I bet it's not quite 100.
Well, if there's 10 seasons and they average 20 episodes a season, which they had to have, it's got to be 200.
236.
Yeah, I was going to say they probably average, like the normal order was probably 24, and they might have cut it to 20 or 22 in the latter seasons. There's no way they ever went under 20.
18. 18
was their shortest?
18 season 10.
Okay.
I bet season 9 is 18.
I wonder if that was like because people were doing movies. Why on earth would that be? It was a cash cow.
Oh,
You think they would
9
wanna
is
make-
24. So 10 was the shortest, and that was 18. I think they were ready to be done, and the network wanted it so bad that they were getting paid $1 million an episode each.
That's pretty good money.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's okay.
That's really all I had for Jane.
No kidding, methane.
Yeah, because she knows her stuff, you know?
She knows her shit, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was a question of how many roots and shoots, but she explained why we don't know that. Because, like,
Right.
they're just kind of sprouting up all over the place, so I couldn't really check it.
Very scatty wampus. Yeah. Very wampus.
Very scatty and very wampus.
Extra wampus and pretty darn scatty. All right, well, this was fun. And then I'll be home in 2 clicks.
2 clicks away?
Yeah, I'll put the pedal down, get right home. I'm driving a Hellcat Durango.
Ooh.
So I'm sitting on about 710 horsepower.
Oh, my God.
So you can really get up those mountain roads.
But it's snowy.
It sure is.
So you can't go that fast, right?
Pretty fast,
Oh, boy.
yeah. It's got all-wheel drive, very stable, really good car.
Okay.
Yeah. I got here and the weather was worse than it will be when I go home.
Okay. And what are Rob and Jethro driving?
Rob's driving his huge Sprinter van that's all decked out.
Ooh.
It's hysterical. It's very cool. And Jethro is driving a Subaru Outback, which I know he's not thrilled about.
Oh, it's not his pick.
No, he too likes horsepower. He's a horsepower addict.
He's a cowboy.
Yes.
Yeah.
On the steel horse he rides. Remember when we interviewed John Jovi?
Yes, I'll never forget.
JJ.
JBJ. All right.
All right. I love you.
Love you.
Have fun cooking your fish.
Yum.